Hey everybody, welcome back to It's a Metal Thing. Today I finish up the frame connector on the 61 Ford Falcon. Let's do it. All right, so I got it all leveled up and marked up. Yeah, the floor definitely tapers. This is 1.25 inches down here, 1.5 inches here. I made this piece so that I could follow the angle of the floor. It's not going to be 1.5 inches this way. It's just going to follow this radius here. So I drilled a hole in this, and this marker goes in here, and I was able to hold this relatively plumb and just come down and scribe the floor. I offset that so that I could do this side like this. So it's just an easy way to transfer over. This, I just took a piece of 1.5 inches and stuck it underneath there. So with this is level, the back had a 1/4 inch gap. So I just put a piece of 1.5 inches by 1/8 flat bar on here and traced it off. So when this goes in, this should actually be touching here now. And yeah, so I'm gonna cut it with a plasma cutter. They're so messy. There's a lot of smoke and soot inside, but it's gonna be the quickest and easiest, and it'll turn out better. Not better. It'll turn out. I don't know if it's better or not, but we'll do that. All right, this is cut out. Looks good. Gonna test fit it. This is what I was talking about on the inside. All funky. Gotta blow that out or clean that out. I'll clean this edge up with a flap wheel. Get it up underneath there and fit it. I took a hammer to this. I had my buddy come in and hold one side like a piece of solid steel that I had as a dolly and just flatten it all out. I'm not gonna weld those holes up yet. I'm gonna see where this lands. This tubing is gonna be in and out a couple of times. Once I get it in there flat and straight and level, then I'm gonna work on the front piece. It's gonna go inside that piece. It's gonna be 2x4, 3/16 wall. It's gonna be the 2 front frame rail. So I'm gonna clean this up, get underneath there, square it up, kind of see where I'm at. Hopefully it'll fit nice, and I don't have to do a bunch of massaging for getting that piece of tubing in and out of there. That thing's heavy. So good times ahead. So let's do it. Good enough. So yeah, fits good. I didn't really have to grind on. I didn't actually grind on tube at all, so I'm really happy with it. I can push that floor down a little bit. Had to cut a little bit, couldn't get this to fit up in all the way. So I notched this up a little more than it was when I first started, and then I had to notch these two out. So yeah, it sits in there nice. It's up flush where I want it to be. It'll be flush with the bottom of the back rail. So now I got to, I'll cut the length on this. I'll take a piece of 4-inch and run it down along that wall there, that firewall, that footwell. That'll give me my length there. I'm gonna actually, the tube is gonna slide down inside there, so I'm gonna leave the upper part. I'll cut it at the angle. I'll leave like a little shoulder on there so I can put a sweet weld in there. I'm gonna put a little maybe 1.5 inch hole in the side there on both sides, so I can, reinforce it. Plus it'll look kind of cool. Have a little hole in there with a nice TIG weld in there. So I'm gonna do that other side and then mark them and cut them. All right, so the frame rails are in, notched, fit nice, happy with them. Now I have to move on to cutting the length on these. I got some, I'm gonna get some 2x4 rectangular tubing. I'm gonna put the bumper on because I want to measure from this face here to the back of the bumper, because I want the frame to be as long as it can be so I can move the shackle forward and move that axle forward. Also too, earlier I was talking about trying to leave that piece on there and incorporate it into the rail, but it's too jacked up and it's too thin and it doesn't make any sense to go through all that extra work. So to get this back where it needs to be, I originally thought this was gonna be gone, so I wasn't sure how I was gonna accommodate this or make this happen. But now that this is still here, I'm going to just put a piece of sheet metal on here with 2 holes in it to mark that location, and I'll weld it to a bracket or whatever that I can screw to this, so that once I cut this out, put that frame rail back in, I screw it back in here, and it will place the 2 holes where they need to go for mounting. I'm going to put thicker material on the inside of the frame rail. I'll weld that in there so I can just bolt into that. It should be almost a 1/2 inch thick. It's 3/16 wall tubing and a piece of 1/4 inch plate in there. Should be plenty to hold that. So yeah, that's next. Going to get the steel and start working on that. So that's it. All right, bumper bolt hole placement apparatus. So I can just undo those two self-tappers, put it back. It should place the holes where they need to be. I measured, put the front bumper on, I measured, I can come an additional 2 inches. I can actually come more, but I'm gonna go 2 inches longer than that. So that's what I'm gonna start on next. I'm gonna cut all this out. I gotta build this other bracket on the other side. Cut all this out, cut me up. This is, I got 10 feet, which is just enough of 2x4 188 wall for the 2 front rails. So that's next. All right, so I have my brackets made. I measured over 2 inches from this here to here. I'm gonna cut that out. I was hoping to keep a part of this, just to have something to clamp the tube to and just make it easier to hold this end up. It's been spot welded on the inside. It looks like this folds in here, and then this goes inside there. So I'm not really sure. I'm gonna try to keep it. I'm gonna see what happens on that. So what I'm gonna do on this is I'm gonna cut this piece off. It's spot welded on. I'm gonna cut it flush with the bottom here. I'm gonna take a cut off wheel and cut this off and clean all that up. I'll do that back there and over here as well. Not so much. A little jacked up over here. Figure that out. So that when if I keep that inner fender well, I'll be able to tie it in. It'll be nice and tidy. So I'm gonna cut that up. Okay, got these all cut out, trimmed up to the bottom here. Sexy, not so sexy. Everything else is good. Got this all cut out. I was able to keep this little tab here to help me clamp. I have some 2x2 tubing. I got it leveled up and it's touching the firewall. And I'm gonna add 2 inches to the front here. That'll give me the length. The reason I'm doing it that way is these two angles are different. So the tubes are gonna be different lengths, good times. So I'm gonna cut the I'm gonna measure this up, cut the 2x4 and start working on that. This is gonna be a lot closer than I thought. Those tubes are almost gonna touch, or maybe will touch. So that's gonna be interesting back there. So we'll see how it goes. Okay, I got a little situation here. In order for this to be level, I'm gonna have to drop it down. So we got interference between the main rail and this rail. I didn't anticipate that. I thought there'd be plenty of clearance. I thought there'd actually be like a little step. I mean, it's gonna be a step, but I thought there'd be a gap between the bottom tube and the top tube. So that's no big deal. But now I'm gonna have to redo it. So on this part here, I'm gonna have to go ahead and just cut that bottom and make the upright and tack it in place so then it won't be touching out here. See, it's touching here, it's causing it to be an issue. So I could get that where it belongs and lower it down. But what I have to do first is get this piece level so I can move it back to where it belongs, because obviously it's up off of that, so it's sticking up, and it's sticking out more in the front than it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna level that up, I'm gonna mark the firewall, and that'll give me the length I need for the up tube. So I'm gonna do that next. Something like that. So this is cut long. I'm going to reinstall this, get it square and flat. I'm gonna take this, I'll be able to slide it in. I'll get the height off of the firewall and put a mark on the firewall. That'll tell me how high this needs to be, and then I'll cut this angle. And hopefully this won't interfere with the other piece coming in. So we'll see, but we'll figure it out. But yeah, so I wanted that hole in there because I think it's gonna look kind of cool. Maybe a little big, but it'll be all right. I'm gonna put a nice little tasty weld in there, so when people look underneath there, they'll see that. Because that's what I'm about, tasty. So it's hot, I'm done. It's 4:20 and it's only 90, but it feels hotter. So I'll do that tomorrow. Okay, so kind of like that. It's pretty good. Got to massage that angle on this piece here. I'm about 1/8 inch high in the back probably, so I'll just do a little more massage in there, but that's pretty much it. Now I have to do the other side, which is a different angle. Can't use any of the information that I had. Another thing that's gonna be tricky is getting this thing straight. So I'm gonna have to tack this piece, this back little piece in, just to keep that angle consistent. And then I can take this out and make sure this is, because ideally this would be parallel with that, right? So it's just gonna run, I could just measure and then just keep that gap, that 3/16 gap, and it should end up pretty straight. I gotta figure out the back yet. I don't know how long I'm gonna go on that. There's another issue that I have. So I don't know how long I'm gonna run these back tubes. The idea was just to tie it in to this frame rail here. So I might end it at that angle there, just come down and end it. Another issue I have is that bolt there. I'm gonna have to make a hole in the tube to be able to put that bolt in, which is no big deal. I wanna run a sway bar on the back of this thing, anti-roll bar. I don't know where I gotta mount it, but I'll figure it out. So yeah, let's start working on this side over here. Okay, front frame rails figured out, leveled all directions, took some finagling around, had to take that long rail out from underneath like 2 or 3 times, do some massaging. When I first made this lower piece that goes inside that piece down there, it was a little bit longer than this piece ended up being, and I was thinking it was just because of the angle, but I was off somehow, so I had to come back in and cut that down and get it all straight. So now everything's level. Inside, the back, all the rails, front to back, side to side are level. The only thing that I'm concerned about now is diagonal square on this. I squared up the engine compartment. I went from corner to corner and got it square and clamped this in. This down here required an 1/8" spacer. So that tells me obviously the core support, and you know, it's just sheet metal, man. They're just banging that stuff together. So there's no real good place for me to get a measurement right now to make sure that front diagonal is, or that front, those 2 front frame rails are square diagonally. I might run a string down the center, and then I can measure, you know, side to side, you know, from the front to the back. I need to tack that up. Once I figure that out, I'll put some hard tacks on there, just take that out and weld all that up. I need to remember, I still haven't done that yet, but I gotta do it before I take this out, because this will be the last time it comes out. Cut the length, and then also to mark where the holes go for the check hole, or the spring bolt. So I'm gonna do that next. Okay, Saturday morning, got the frame rails out, started welding on them. It's been a week. I mean, I didn't get hardly anything done yesterday, and I haven't been like going full blast, but I've been going pretty hard for a week. So yeah, it's taken a while. So anyway, I got this welded up. I'm gonna weld this one up. Going to have to remember to drill and tap these, gonna remember that. So what I'll do is I'll put a piece of 1/4" plate on the inside here. I'll drill a couple holes first. I'll plug weld that in so we get double thickness, then I'll drill and tap through both of them. Super stout, super easy, super strong. I'm gonna have to clean this up. You know, you don't really see how I have to grind some of that out. That's why I took a death wheel and made some clearance on the floor. This is where the bolt is for the rear spring mount, the front of the rear spring. I'm gonna make it oversized and put a piece of tube in there so it'll be sealed up. Eventually I'm gonna box these off. Yeah, so this is where I'm gonna cut it. This is where the seam is from the floor to where it starts to kick up, so it's a good spot to do that. I'm gonna cut this at a little bit of an angle. It's squared, look weird, even angle, but it is what it is. So I might, I'm not sure, maybe run power through here. I'm gonna run a battery in the trunk, so I'll run a power in there and maybe fuel lines up that one. I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, I'm gonna do that next. All right, frame is pretty much in. It's level, it's straight, it's square, I'm happy. Everything turned out good. Got this good welds on here, good welds over here. This is welded in, not completely, but it's strong enough to hold it where it needs to be. I welded the inside. It's 90% done. I got a weld over there, fill in some holes over there. This is a freaking nightmare. These turned out all right, a little on the cold side, but not really. Trying to get that 3/16 connected to the 16 gauge is pretty tough. You just have to concentrate your heat on it and just let it flow down. Had to trigger it a few times, it started to get away from me, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. On the bottom side, I was welding on that. That's a nightmare. Trying to keep the heat on that 3/16 and then push the puddle up. It's pretty tough, especially when you're laying on your back. It's dark down there. I couldn't see, couldn't get my face right because I'm kind of getting old, can't see for the shit. So I'm gonna do all the underside welding and fix all the pinholes and do all the grinding and stuff and finish the bottom out on my buddy's lift. But you guys don't need to see that. I tied the back in with some 2x4 tubing that I cut. It's cut down to 3.5, and then on the front it's actually shorter, 3.25, because it radiuses down that way. Later, when I figure out the roll bar, I'm going to put another stretcher across, up around where that torque box is, that piece of galvanized. It'll go across there, and like be a double tie-in to the frame rail. So it should be pretty stout. Next, I'm working on the spring. I got the wheel in place where it needs to be. I'm happy with the height. Just lucked out on that. Actually, I wasn't even thinking about that when I set the car up, as far as just for the frame part. But I like the right height, so I'm gonna take the rear end. I'm gonna roll it underneath here, put the wheels and tires on it, get it where it belongs. And then I'm gonna take some measurements from here, obviously, to here, where the spring perch is. I gotta order some spring perches for that. The springs that came on the Explorer 2.25 wide. The springs that came on the Falcon are 2-inch wide. So I'm gonna have to hopefully find some or make some or do something. I've never done springs before. I have no idea what I'm looking for, what I'm doing. Obviously the weight on the back here isn't gonna change a whole lot. There will be some weight transfer issues. So as far as the spring rate goes, it'll be pretty close to the stock, maybe a little firmer. I am gonna run ladder bars, but not ladder bars, it'll be more like a torque arm. So I'm not worried about spring wrap. So I don't want anything too stiff. I want it to ride like it should. Obviously I don't want the tires to rub. I'm gonna run some good gas shocks, but I don't want it to ride like a buckboard. I want it to ride like it's supposed to. Whether I can pull that off with the distance between the wheels and tires, I don't know. I'm gonna give it a shot. Again, I don't know nothing about this. It's my first one, so. I'm gonna end this video here. If you like the video, subscribe, check me out on Instagram, and leave me a comment. I feel lonely. I get like 2 comments. Just say, you look like an idiot or whatever. All right, I know you thought this video's over, but it's not. Like I've said, I've never built one of these before. I have no idea what I'm doing, and now it's apparent. So I'm up underneath here looking around, kind of figuring out what my next step's gonna be on this rear end, and I realized that I'm gonna have to move the springs. If I go straight line to that pocket, it's like right up against that brake caliper. And then it starts getting into all that stuff as far as the U-bolts and all that stuff goes. So I'm gonna have to move that over. And I'm not sure what I'm gonna do to do that. I'm gonna have to do some serious thinking here. Looks like I'm gonna have to back half my front half. Anyway, we're learning together, right? I'm sure all you people that know what you're doing are looking at me like I'm an idiot, and I am, but we're gonna get there. So we'll see what happens next.